Can everybody just wake their microphones up before the start, please, so we don't have a problem. Right, can I just welcome everybody to the annual council first part of the AGM for the 24th of May. I'll ask first of all for apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillor Andrew Martin-Wells and Councillor Bob Buchan.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Brash.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point 13.11 of our Constitution's procedure rules requires elected members to abide by our Constitution, the procedure rules, and indeed the law which enshrines our Code of Conduct via the Nolan Principles. Article 2 of that Code of Conduct, Section 2.3, requires us to act with integrity, act lawfully, and lead by example in a way which secures public confidence. Section 2.1 requires us not to bully any person, not to harass any person, and not to act unlawfully against any person. I believe, Mr. Chairman, why am I raising this? Integrity in public office matters. All too often we have seen, Mr. Chairman, the slide to allowing behaviour in public office to go unchallenged. It brings our institutions, and not least this council, into disrepute. We cannot allow such behaviour to go unchallenged. And the reality is we have a criminal in our midst. We have someone convicted of a crime of violence against women. This cannot go unchallenged by this body. It will never go unchallenged by this body. And any pretense that there will be forgiveness or forgetting can just be for the birds. It's not going to happen. We must challenge it. There has been much talk about the toothless nature of the sanctions we are able to take. But in truth, there are actions that we can take. The government's recent response to the Committee on Standards in Public Life confirmed we have the power to bar any elected member from attendance, not just membership, from attendance at any committee meeting. We have the ability to bar them from any public representative role by the council, including ward surgeries. We have, in rare instances, it is accepted by the government, the power to bar a councillor from all council premises. I believe that is a fit and proper set of sanctions for the former Conservative, now independent member for Seaton. I would therefore propose to use the good offices of the Chief Solicitor to explore how we can impose those sanctions in a timely and as fast as possible manner to ensure that nobody be under any doubt, and I think particularly of the women and young girls of this town, that being elected to public office has integrity and it has standards, and we will not stand by while someone denigrates those. I move that formally from the floor. I hope for a seconder, and I hope for unanimity in this chamber to propose that investigation into that member.
Thank you, Councillor. Indication from other people who wish to speak. I've got to give them the opportunity to speak, and then we will go to the seconder. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really sorry. I did have my hand up, but Jonathan isn't actually looking this way. I'm just on apologies still. Peter is late, but he is coming, so just thought to let people know. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
I would just like to second Councillor Rush's motion, please.
Thank you. We have a proposal put forward by Council, which has been seconded. I will check with our Chief Solicitor to make sure that we are within our rights to do that.
Yes, Chair, sorry,
yes.
If you're prepared to accept the motion.
We need to do this correctly. We can either do it one of two ways, a recorded vote or a show of hands. Show of hands? Is everybody happy with a show of hands? You want a recorded vote. Can we organise a recorded vote then, please, Denise? We will go alphabetically through the council list, and if you would please either say for the motion or against. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Moore?
Yeah, just before we do, Chair, can I just clarify we're seeking to send the motion to Audit and Governance for an investigation? Is that correct?
Chair, I'm very clearly set out a set of sanctions that I want this council to endorse, and for the Chief Solicitor, by whatever means she seems necessary, come back with a solution of how to implement them. If that means going to Audit and Governance, then she can do that, but I leave that to her good officers.
Yeah. Would you think that it would have to go that way? Hilda?
Yeah, that would be the correct process,
So
Chair.
we're in agreement that motion, if it is passed, will go to Audit and Governance for ratification. Okay? Thank you. When you're ready, please, Denise. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is you are either for or against the point of order raised by Councillor Brash. So Councillor Allen?
For.
Councillor Ashton?
For.
Councillor Boddy?
For.
Councillor Brash?
For.
Councillor Cassidy?
For.
Councillor Clayton?
For.
Councillor Cook?
For.
Councillor Cowie? I do apologise.
He's big enough. I mean, he's big enough.
It's my invisible suit. 4.
Sorry, Councillor Brown. Councillor Cranny.
4.
Councillor Creevy. 4. Councillor Falconer. 4. Councillor Feeney. 4. Councillor Fleming.
4.
Councillor Groves.
4.
Councillor Hall.
4.
Councillor Hargreaves. 4. Councillor Harrison. 4. Councillor Howson. 4. Councillor Leedham.
4.
Councillor Lindridge.
4.
Councillor Little. 4. Councillor Loynes. 4. Councillor Morley. 4. Councillor Moore. 4. Councillor David Nicholson. 4. Councillor Veronica Nicholson. 4. Councillor Picton. 4. Councillor Prince. 4. Councillor Reeve.
4.
Councillor Smith. 4. Councillor Stokel. He's not a councillor anymore. I've obviously got a very old list, so I do apologise. Councillor Tiplady. 4. Councillor Young. 4. That's unanimous, thank you, Chair.
That's unanimous, and the vote is found in favour of sending it to Audit and Governance. Yes, Councillor Little.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you now, Gordon Cranny, and we're going to use the privilege of being a councillor in that status that I've just said, that I would ask you again to stand down as a Seaton Ward councillor and let the residents of Seaton Ward, if you decide to go into stand, make the decision to leave this meeting now.
Can we, right, Hayley, please? Thank you.
Chair, sorry. I think we just need to move on to the agenda. Mr. Mayor.
Right, you've made your feelings quite clearly known, everybody has, so we will follow that procedure in accordance with the rules and regulations that we have. So, right, before we go any further, can I ask, when we go through all the committees and so forth, do we want a show of hands or do we want a recorded vote on every position? Everybody happy with the show of hands? Thank goodness for that. Right, so we won't be here all night. Right, we move on then, please. To elect the Chair of Council, stroke ceremonial mayor for the coming municipal year, do we have any nominations, please? Councillor Moore.
Chair, I'd like to nominate Councillor Cowie.
Councillor Harrison.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Craig.
Thank you. So we do have a vote to go to. Yes.
I'll second that.
You'll second. And who will? Thank you. Right. So we have to go to a show of hands in this particular case. So can I have a show of hands, please? All those in favour of Councillor Cowie? All those in favour of Councillor Prince? 12. Yep. So Councillor Cowie is duly elected the chair of the council on a vote of 21 to 12. Now, what's supposed to happen now is that, just to let you know, that because Councillor Cowie becomes chair, he will automatically have a seat on the Constitution Committee, on the appointments panel and the civic honours list, automatically. Will you please come up, Councillor Cowie, to the front desk and sign your declarations, please? When Councillor Cowie's done that, ask it that. I'm going to take my water. There's another glass there. No, I'll go down this way to speak to Brian. Congratulations, Brian. Do you want to take your chair? No, I've got one over here.
Can I hand this meeting over to Denise? Can I hand over this meeting to Denise?
Thank you, Chair. So, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So we now continue with the remainder of the meeting, and the first thing to do is to elect the Vice Chair of the Council, which is the Deputy Ceremonial Mayor. And so far, I've an indication of one nomination has been received, which is Councillor Loynes. Is there any other nominations from the floor? Can I have a proposer and seconder, please?
Proposed. Second.
Thank you. Any dissent? Okay. So can I invite Councillor Loynes to sign the declaration and take your seat on the dais? Thank you, Chair. Item 5 is to receive any announcements from the Chair of Council ahead of paid service. I have none, and I doubt very much that you will have any, seeing as you've been in post for a matter of minutes. And the next item is to approve the programme of meetings for the Council for the year. They are set out in the report. Is it not? Do apologise. To elect the leader of the council and a deputy leader for the council for the coming year. Can I have an indication that 2 councillors have been nominated for leader of the council. They are Councillor Harrisons and Councillor Moore. Can I invite proposers and seconders? Should we? Any seconders? Greeley and Veronica. So we'll go to the vote. Those in favour of Councillor Moore? You haven't got Steve picked them. And those in favour of Councillor Harrison? 30. 20, 13. So Councillor Moore is successful in the Leader of the Council, a post of 20 to 13 against Councillor Harrison. There go on to the nomination. So as Councillor Moore will therefore be appointed of Chair of Finance and Policy Committee, Health and Wellbeing Board Chair, Constitution Committee, Appointments Panel and outside bodies set out in the table schedule. Oh, I do apologise. I've got the microphone. Yeah. Okay. So we now take, is that better, Fred? Now take nominations for the Deputy Leader. I've been advised of 2 nominations for the Deputy Leader. Those nominations are Councillor Brash and Councillor Young. Can I have proposers and seconders, please? Councillor Moore, Councillor Harrison and seconders. Councillor Creevy and Councillor Veronica Young. I'm taking a wild guess. I know we've agreed on some things tonight, but okay. Can I go for a vote, please? Those in favour of Councillor Young? And those in favour of Councillor Brash? Councillor Young has been successful in the role of Deputy Leader and as such will take place a seat on the Finance and Policy Committee. Now we move on to the programme of meetings which has been circulated for approval. Is everyone happy with the proposed dates for ordinary council meetings? And they will continue to be at 6 o'clock. Councillor Moore.
Mr Mayor, would just like to propose that the annual council meetings for next year, for the AGM, this part of it, which is currently programmed for the 23rd of May, on the Tuesday, be brought forward a week to the 16th of May, and therefore the mayoral investiture ceremony, which would be on the Thursday, the 25th of May, move to the 18th of May. We're just bringing it forward 1 week.
Seconded.
Is there any dissent? Okay, approved. So we now go on to the appointments to committees, and I think we should start on the statutory committees first, such as licensing and planning. So for licensing, I've received 2 nominations, Councillor Martin Wells and Councillor Prince. Do I do proposals and seconders? Can I have proposals, please? Thank you. Seconders? Thank you. We will go to the vote. Those in favour of Councillor Martin Wells? It's 20. And those in favour of Councillor Prince? It's 13. Yeah. So Councillor Martin Wells has been successful in that. Vice Chair nominations have been received for the Licensing Committee of Councillor Fleming and Councillor Prince. Have I got proposals for councillors? Thank you. Thank you. Any seconders? So I'll just do the same, I know. So show of hands, please, for Councillor Fleming. It's going to be 2013. And those a show of hands for Councillor Prince. Thank you. There are no remaining contested seats, so Council is requested to approve membership of this committee. Thank you. Now go on to planning. I've received 2 nominations for the Chair of Planning. Those are Councillor Brown and Councillor Morley.
I'll nominate Councillor Brown.
Have a seconder, please. Have a seconder, please. Thank you. Can I have a show of hands for Councillor Brown, please? What are you doing? And for Councillor Morley? Councillor Brown is successful in the post of Chair of Planning Committee. Now move on to the Vice Chair, and nominations have been received from Councillors Young and Councillor Morley. Can I have a proposal, please?
Councillor Morley.
Would you like to second? I thought that, yeah. I have a seconder for Councillor Young. Veronica, thank you. Show of hands, please, for Councillor Young. And Councillor Morley, show of hands, please. There are no remaining contested seats, so Council is requested to approve those 2 posts. So we now move on to memberships of each of the policy committees and start with Adult and Community-Based Services. So nominations for the role of Chair have been received from Councillor Buchan and Councillor Harrison. Can I have a proposal for... Seconder for Buchan is Tim Fleming and Councillor Creevy. Right, show of hands, please, for Councillor Buchan. Is it Buchan? 20? And Councillor Harrison. So Councillor Buchan's been successful there. We'll now move on to, and that post is also successful going directly onto the Council of Finance and Policy Committee, sorry. Now we've received nominations for the Vice Chair. I've received Councillor Harrison and Councillor Little. But if Councillor Little is successful, she will take the allocated seat, and the notification received that Councillor Harrison will not take the seat on the committee. If Councillor Harrison is successful, Councillor Little will be able to contest the unallocated seat, just so everybody is clear. So, yes, Chair. It's just leader, sorry. You nominate Councillor Little.
I'll second it.
And we've got nominations for Councillor Harrison and Councillor Prince. Thank you. So, show of hands, please, for Councillor Harrison. Mixing it up. Thank you. And Councillor Little. Councillor Little. Okay, yeah, show of hands. So Councillor Little takes the Vice Chair. Dependent on the, so contested seat 7 is dependent on the outcome of the Chair or Vice Chair vote, which we've talked about, so Councillor Harrison takes that. And we've also got nominations from Councillor Buchan, which is, Buchan's been successful as Chair. So Councillor Clayton and Councillor Little, so Councillor Clayton will automatically take that seat as well. We now move on to the Neighbourhood Services Committee. I've received nominations for the Chair from Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Creevy. If Councillor Creevy is unsuccessful, she is contesting the Vice Chair position, just so everyone is aware. So can I see a show of hands, please, for Councillor Cassidy? Oh, sorry. Yes, I do. Sorry, I'm just in a slip.
Councillor Cassidy. Second, Councillor Creevy.
Yeah. Veronica. Brash. Okay. Show of hands for Councillor Cassidy. Okay. Yeah. And Councillor Creevy. Yeah, Councillor Cassidy is appointed to F&P Chair. So we now take to Neighbourhoods, it says F&P. Takes a seat on F&P. I do apologise. It's too many words here. It's been a long day. So, Vice Chair, we've got Councillor Creevy and Councillor Moore have been nominated. Can I seek proposers and seconders, please? Do we just take it as read? Yeah. Are we allowed to do that? Just take it as read. If we just yeah, just for the minutes, okay. So, say show of hands for Councillor Creevy. I'm going to go off my script. And Councillor Moore. Peter can't sign.
You voted twice.
Oh.
I was telling him.
I was telling
Councillor Moore takes the seat.
Chair, can I just apologise for being late? Thank you.
So, Councillor Moore is successful and he therefore takes his allocated seat, and Councillor Creevy will take seat 3 on the committee. We have a contested seat for seat 7 and have received nominations from Councillor Little and Councillor Feeney, which will now go to the vote. Shall I mix it up again? Shall we go for Councillor Little? Show of hands, please. And for Councillor Feeney. Thank you. Councillor Little is successful in taking that seat. We now move on to the Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee. Nominations for Chair have been received from Councillor Young and Councillor Hargreaves. If Councillor Hargreaves is unsuccessful, she's contesting the position of Vice Chair. We'll have show of hands for Councillor Young. No, I thought we just said we'd accept them all. So, yeah. That's fine. Show of hands for Councillor Young. And for Councillor Hargreaves. Yeah, Councillor Young is successful and is therefore appointed to Finance and Policy Committee. Nominations for Vice Chair have been received from Councillors Brown and Hargreaves. If Councillor Brown is successful, he takes the allocated seat and Councillor Hargreaves will take seat 3 on the committee. And if Councillor Hargreaves is successful, she takes the allocated seat and Councillor Brown will take seat 3 on the committee. We'll go for the vote. So I've got Councillor Brown. And Councillor Hargreaves. Mix it up. One abstention. So we move on to Children's Services Committee. I've received nominations from Councillor Lindridge and Councillor Boddy, and if Councillor Boddy is unsuccessful, he's contesting the seat of Vice Chair. So, show of hands for Councillor Lindridge. Councillor Boddy. Councillor Lindridge is successful and has been appointed also to sit on Finance and Policy. Nominations for Vice Chair include Councillor Boddy and Councillor Leadham. If Councillor Boddy is successful, he takes the allocated seat, and Councillor Leadham will take seat 3 on the committee. And if Councillor Leadham is successful, he will take the allocated seat, and Councillor Boddy will take seat 3 on the committee. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Boddy? And Councillor Leadham. That's how you say it. Okay, Councillor Leadham takes that seat, and Councillor Boddy is successful on the other seat. We've got contested seat 7. I've got Councillor Little and Councillor Creevy to take that seat. We'll go to the vote. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Little? Councillor Creevy. Right, okay. So Councillor Little, you've been successful. So we now move on to Finance and Policy Committee. Seats 1 to 5 have been determined by the earlier votes. Seat 6 is subject to Councillor Young being elected as Deputy Leader and the Chair of the Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee. The Hartlepool People's Group will relinquish their seat to Councillor Martin Wells. Subject to the result of the Chair of Adult and Community-Based Services Committee, which I believe was Councillor Buchan, he will also sit on that committee. Council's approval is requested to the non-contested seats on the Policy Committee as set out in the committee schedule circulated previously to members. However, I am aware of one change from the Coalition Party, and that was for Councillor Jim Lindridge to take the seat on Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee and not Councillor Cook. Moving on to other committees. Health and Wellbeing Board. Following Councillor Moore being appointed as leader, 1 seat is allocated. Uncontested nominations have been received, which the Council is requested to approve. However, seat 4 is contested and have received nominations from Councillor Cook and Councillor Harrison. Therefore, I'll go to a vote. Can we see a show of hands for Councillor Cook? Councillor Harrison. Councillor Cook takes it. We'll now move on to Audit and Governance Committee. I've received nominations for Chair from Councillor Cook and Councillor Hall. We'll go to a vote. I'll see a show of hands for Councillor Cook. And Councillor Hall. Councillor Cook has been successful. Received nominations for Vice Chair from Councillor Hall and also Councillor Smith. I'll go to a show of hands for Councillor Hall. Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith is successful. Contested seat 10. Councillor Hall has been unsuccessful in Chair of Vice Chair. Councillor Cook has been successful. That can come out and so that goes automatically to Councillor Hall. And we do have, sorry, Councillor Noel.
Just for the coalition vacancy, forgive me, Chair, I can't remember if I gave the name for the coalition vacancy. It's Councillor Tiplady, if I didn't.
Councillor
Tiplady.
too many of us, that's all.
So I don't need to say that. Let's move on to constitution. There are no remaining contested seats, so council is requested to approve membership of this committee. Now move on to Constitution Committee. The Chair of Council and the Leader, as agreed earlier in the meeting, ultimately go on the Constitution Committee. There are no contested seats, so Council is requested to approve membership of this committee. Councillor Moore.
Again, we didn't give the name previously. For the 2 vacancies for seats 6 and 7, we have Young and Brown.
Thank you. Appointments panel. The Leader and the Chair of Council, as agreed early in the meeting, are automatically placed on the appointments panel. Councillor Little has expressed an interest in sitting on this panel, which is only possible if a seat is vacated by another group. Council is requested to approve non-contested seats. Is there any comments from the floor? Councillor Moore.
Chair, for seat 7 from the coalition, the seat will be taken up by Councillor Jim Lindridge, and seat 8 we were going to offer to Councillor Little.
Civic Honours Committee. There are no contested seats, so Council is requested to approve membership of the committee. We are expecting 2 Labour nominations, I think, for seats 4 and 5. Yeah. Councillor Brash. Thank you. This ends the consideration of appointments to committees. Now we move on to the exciting part of the meeting, the appointments of outside bodies.
I find it peculiar looking over to my right to not see Councillor Richardson here, who's been here for so many years. It just seems strange not to see his bearded, smiling face.
So we now move on to the appointments of outside bodies and council.
Sorry, Denise. Just on the outside bodies, I've got a bit of a. I've got 2 concerns really. The first one is I'd like to the joint. The Tees Valley Audit and Governance Committee, the Tees Valley Combined Authority Audit and Governance Committee. I'd like to query that whether that seat should go to the Conservative at all, and whether it should, whether we need some more information from the Tees Valley Combined Authority. It just seems a bit bizarre that it came to us last year and it's not come to us this year.
Mr Mayor, we'll be happy to take that back to the Combined Authority. But as a way forward, just in case there is a meeting in the meantime, if we could take a nomination from both Labour and Conservative, and then once we've had it clarified by the Combined Authority, we could delegate responsibility to the Managing Director to make that appointment.
In that case, can we nominate Tom Feeney?
Do we have a coalition nominee?
Sorry, I have another query. It is a query that I've raised a couple of times recently, but I do think it's really important, albeit a teeny bit important. The nominations for this year, a lot of them seem to have a chair of whatever committee to be sitting in that seat, as opposed to last year when it was just going to whoever was interested in that particular thing. It's my understanding that that's been an officer decision, and I don't believe it's gone to Constitution Committee, so I would like us to take out those chairs if other people are interested in doing that, really.
We did put the chairs in that column just as recommendations, because I think last year we carried quite a lot of vacancies. So, but I think, as I said at the roundtable meetings, though it's still open for any member to put themselves forward. It doesn't mean it automatically goes to the chair.
So just for clarification, the suggestion that we did that actually did come from members, though, as the Chief Solicitor did say, that this time it is just advisory and that it would go to Constitution Committee.
Councillor Creevy had a hand up first.
You'd warm it up. There you go. It's just that several members are sitting down while they're speaking, and I thought the protocol was to stand. So if we could just go back to that formality of standing if we're speaking, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The reminder. Councillor Creevy.
In the spirit of standing up, thanks, Brenda. We know how much I love standing up to speak. So can I just clarify then that those seats that appear to be contested seats, contesting against the chair of neighbourhoods or whatever, they won't be contested today then, I'm assuming. Is that right?
If they've not been contested, sorry, Councillor Brash, so it's a proposal because we carried a number of vacancies, and it's really important that Hartlepool Borough Council has been asked to sit on these boards. It's really important we have a presence there, and this was an officer recommendation or proposal to try and address that. However, if there's a member on the floor of council who expresses a desire to take that seat, then we can go to the vote on that this evening. That's not a problem. And the chair can relinquish it if that's what they want to do as well, but that they can go up against each other. Councillor Brash.
Chair, I think we've got to get some clarity here, and I'll use a very specific example of the Hartlepool and District Sports Council. There's a recommendation which, by the acknowledgement you've said, is a recommendation that's come from officers for the chair of Adelaide Community-Based Services to take that spot. There's only 3 spots. Political groups have put forward 3 nominees. So there shouldn't be a vote. Just remove that chair recommendation because it didn't come from a political group. Those 3 people get on. Am I understanding it correctly?
That's correct. Yeah.
Perfect.
Councillor Moore.
Chair, we seem to be jumping the gun a little bit here in the sense that actually if we get through the list, when we get to those contested ones, I think we'll actually find that a lot of those that are currently contested on the sheets aren't when we actually get to them. So okay. I'd suggest we move on and then we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, so if I... Page 5. So if we go to the first page on the joint committee thing, which is here, says page 3, are there any contested seats against the recommendations from officers regarding the chairs? If that isn't the case, then obviously that page is actually as is. So happy with that page? Yes. Councillor Moore, would you like to?
Yeah, it is, but just as the designated substitute for the Cleveland Police and Crime Panel, this designated sub for myself would be Councillor Tiplady.
Councillor Creevy.
Sorry, it's just a little misleading though, because on the Tees Valley Joint Scrutiny Committee, it says on here, on our paperwork, that refer to A&G Committee, but then I had a conversation with officers earlier on today that said that people would be nominating on the floor tonight for that. So is that right?
There's a special urgent meeting that the Combined Authority are calling, which is why we need to do nominations from this evening.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Cook. I'm sure. Mayor.
Am I okay to stay seated instead of keeping on? Yes. Brian.
Sorry?
Am I okay to stay seated?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Normally, what happens is at the first meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee, we ask for 2 nominations from the committee who wish to go forward to those 2 positions. So that will happen on the first meeting.
Sorry, just take advice from the Chief Solicitor.
The Labour nomination is Councillor Creevy. We just need a coalition.
So, rather than refer to audit and governance due to the urgent meeting that's required, we need the chair of audit and governance is automatically appointed onto this. We need a coalition nominee and a Labour nomination. I think, Councillor Creevy, we've received a nomination from yourself to be successful. So we just need to know what the coalition nomination is. It's just because it's an urgent meeting, Rob. And it's an urgent meeting the Combined Authority are calling, and we've only been told today. But we still have a seat from the coalition. I need a coalition.
Sorry, Chair, does it need to be politically balanced, this one? Because it's not a combined authority committee, and so surely it can be anyone from the Audit and Governance Committee. And in which case, I guess we need to figure out who's on Audit and Governance.
Historically, sorry, Councillor Brash, just to answer Councillor Moore's question, historically it's always been politically balanced.
If the coalition have run out of people, we'll nominate Melanie Morley.
The coalition, do you want to nominate someone? Councillor Faulkner. We turn over on page 4. Sorry. If we turn over on page 4, there's no contestants there apart from the patrol, parking and traffic regulations, which I've got the Chair of Neighbourhood Services and Councillor Prince. I think the Chair of Neighbourhood Services was Tom.
I'll withdraw.
You withdraw, so Councillor Prince is successful on that committee. Yeah, and the one above is referred to A&G. Okay. Page 5. So we've got the Hartlepool and District Sports Committee. 3 seats available, but 4 nominations received. Councillor Moore, you had your hand up.
Chair, it was just to say that the nomination from the Chair of Adults and Community-Based Services has been withdrawn, so none of those seats are contested.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. No votes required. We move. Are there any comments on page 6? No. Page 7. Are there any where the chairs have been nominated from the various committees? Is there any successful? Oh, sorry, any contested seats?
Sorry, going back to page 6. So on number 23, the Local Government Association Coastal Special Interest Group, on the paperwork it says Chair of Neighbourhoods versus Councillor Brash. I'm assuming is that going to Councillor Brash?
I haven't got that on page 6, Councillor Creevy.
Page 7, sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
I apologise.
No. So, page 7, the Local Government Association Coastal Special Interest Group. The chair's keeping that. Okay. We'd have to go to the vote, Lois. Okay. Show of hands.
Right.
So we've received 2 nominations. Chair of Neighbourhoods.
Have we received 2 nominations, or have officers recommended a nomination from the coalition? There is a big difference between those 2 positions. If you've recommended the chair do it, that's not a nomination. Now, admittedly, they can get round that by nominating him now. Of course they can. But that's the point that's being made repeatedly in the room, is that there seems to have been a process by which we go, yeah, the chair can do it, the chair can do it, the chair can do it. Why is the chair's name even on there when they didn't nominate the chair of Neighbourhood Services?
During the round table conversations, we asked the people if the chairs were going to relinquish, and if we hadn't been notified that the chairs, if successful, will relinquish those posts, which is why that paperwork's still there. And until we know who the chairs are going to be, it's really difficult to actually go through this. You know, withdraw it to make sure, otherwise we'll be reissuing paperwork every 5 minutes.
Heck. This isn't working.
Councillor Harrison.
Right. muddying the water by actually putting that on. I didn't see that at first, but in listening to what people are saying, I think it is muddying the water. If you're actually saying, if the chair wants that, they've got an automatic seat, and that's, no, I know you're not saying that, but that's how it's coming across. So
I can see the perception.
We need to take that out of the equation altogether. And if a chair wants to go for it, they go for it. But take away the idea that they can go for it.
Councillor Fleming?
Originally you said it was from the round table. Was anybody from over there at the round table?
Yes.
Yes. More of us.
I think it's... no.
I've just said, sorry, Chair, I've just said that it's come to, yes, it's come to my mind with the discussion rather than how it seemed at the round table. So I've put my hands up to that.
Councillor Young?
Can I nominate Councillor Cassidy?
Okay. Go to a vote. Councillor Brash? Vote. Yeah. Councillor Cassidy? I could go through all of these now. Are there any more contests? Sorry, Councillor Cassidy's been successful. On page 7, are there any more contested seats or nominations regarding the proposals on that page? Councillor Moore.
Chair, for the North Tees and Hartlepool NHS Foundation Trust, I'd like to withdraw my name from the nomination and nominate Councillor Young. Young.
Are there any other nominations? Councillor Young successful. Are there any other nominations on the floor of Northern Consortium of Housing Authorities, Safer Hartlepool Partnership and Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education? So on the Tees, Esk and Weir Valley NHS Trust, I've received one nomination for the Member Champion for Mental Health, and that's Councillor Young. Are there any other nominations from the floor? It does. Councillor Feeney. Yeah, so you're right, Councillor Young, it's not a Member Champion for Mental Health because we haven't got there. Sorry for the confusion. So, show of hands for Councillor Young. Councillor Prince. Councillor Young being successful. Tees Valley Combined Authority Board. I think that's the leader, and we've got the deputy leader, deputy leader, and the Transport Committee. It has historically always been the chair of Neighbourhood Services. Right, thank you. Yeah, and Audit and Governance Committee, Councillor Feeney with designated sub-Councillor Creevy. Are there any contested seats? Sorry, Councillor Moore.
Page 8, that's the politically balanced one. I appreciate you will be seeking advice on whether or not that is politically balanced correctly, but for the time being, the nomination from the Conservatives, because it's apparently their seat, is Councillor Tiplady.
Page 9. But any queries on page 9, Councillor Brash?
Only because there are no nominations, can we nominate Councillor Harrison for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee? Unless I've mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I've had notification from the Conservatives that their nomination for the politically balanced part of it would be Councillor David Nicholson.
Any more? Oh. Sorry. Councillor Creevy.
Sorry, can I just... Oh, I don't know whether I can be bothered to stand up. Can I just make sure that our nominations are in right? So it should be Councillor Harrison as nominated, with our substitute as Councillor Morley. Thank you.
Substitute was Councillor Morley, was that?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Cook.
It does actually indicate on that overview and scrutiny for an independent vacancy, but considering what's been voted on tonight, as regards the only independent would be Councillor Cranny, and considering Councillor Cranny and the way it stands at the moment, because it's going to Audit and Governance Committee, can that be left open?
You took the words out of my mouth, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I spoke to Dem Services earlier, and I was just going to clarify, because historically I sat on Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and although the committee itself is politically balanced, when an authority can't fulfil the position from the group or whoever it's supposed to be from, we have previously allowed for another seat, so I have said today that we'll try and get a bit of clarification to see whether we're able to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I can also inform the Land Commission is no longer a board that meets for the Combined Authority, so that can come off. Page 10. There's no nominations from the floor. That the Chair of Children's and the Chair of Finance go on those two bodies. Page 11. I'm waiting for 2 nominations for the coalition seats. Councillor Moore.
Chair, from the coalition we've got Councillor Veronica Nicholson, and we relinquished a seat to Councillor Brown.
That's balanced, that's fine. Nothing on schools admission forum, Suez, Tees Valley Local Access Forum, no contested seats. Move on to page 12. I've received 2 nominations for Cleveland Fire Authority. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Jackson has since withdrawn, and Councillor Smith, therefore, is no longer contested. A nomination, however, is sought for the appointment to the executive from one of the 3 members appointed to the Fire Authority. So I've got Councillor Faulkner, Councillor Clayton and Councillor Smith, so we'll have to go for a vote for the executive. Show of hands for Councillor Faulkner. Is Lisa's hand up? Councillor Clayton. Show of hands for Councillor Clayton. Councillor Smith, I'll have to move. Councillor Smith, show of hands. I know you didn't. So Councillor Faulkner. So Councillor Faulkner, you'll sit on the executive. Anything else on page 12? Let me look at my notes. Fair Trade Town Steering Group Committee. We've got proposals from officers for fair trade covers such a wide range of things. However, so we've got a number of chairs which are there: Adults, Economic Growth and Finance and Policy Committee, together with Councillor Harrison, who has been a long-standing member of the board steering group. Do we need to go to the vote of the chairs relinquishing their seats and handing it over to Councillor Harrison? Apologise, John. The notes are all over. Okay, I've got it. Right, so if we go further up that report, we've got a vacancy on the Teesside International Airport. I've received a nomination from Councillor Cook. And the chairs of the other committees are, we go with Councillor Cook. Okay, and same on the Teesside International Consultative Committee. I've received no nominations. However, officers have recommended either the Chair of Economic or the Chair of Neighbourhood Services takes that seat. Anybody want it? Come back at another day. Thank you. Okay. Done that. Sorry? Councillor Young? What, for the consultative committee? Okay, so the Chair of Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee is going to take that one. Okay. Right, we move on to page 13. I've received a nomination for the Henry Smith Education Charity for Councillor Veronica Nicholson to continue in that role. Is that contested? No, that's carried then. And I've received no nominations for the River Tees Port Health Authority. Is that seat remaining open? Councillor Cassidy, we've recommended you take that, but if you don't, you want to continue to take that. There is a vacancy there. Councillor Creevy.
Sorry, just as a bit of a late starter, can I nominate myself for that one, please?
Of course you can.
No one else is.
The Teesmouth Field Centre received no nominations. However, there is a recommendation that either the Chair of Neighbourhoods or the Chair of Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee take that. Either chairs want to take that role up. Councillor Young, are you putting yourself forward? So on Victoria and Jubilee Homes. Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Rob. Old habits. Yeah. Councillor Creevy's just put herself forward. Councillor Creevy put herself forward from the floor.
Thanks. I missed that, thanks.
For Victoria and Jubilee Homes, we've got Councillor Brash, Councillor Allen and Councillor Hall. Yes, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Could I nominate Councillor Picton for that, please?
So that would go up against, that would take this number one seat, wouldn't it? Yeah, but so the 4 seats there will be Councillor Picton, Councillor Brash, Councillor Allen and Councillor Hall. That's a 4-year term. Right. We'll move on to page 14, which are the champions. and we've received a nomination for the Armed Forces Champion. This is the only champion that we actually, I think constitutionally we have to have, and I've received a nomination for Councillor Carey. Is there any other nominations from the floor? And the Veterans Champion isn't a councillor, and we've received it's a post for a member of the public, and Mr Michael Mail wishes to continue in that role. We've had a conversation at round table regarding all the other champions, and members have asked for that to be referred to the Constitutions Committee to discuss how we take that forward going forward. So no dissent from the floor. We'll move over to page 15, which are the other decision-making bodies. So, are there any nominations from the floor in addition to what we've already got in the paperwork in front of you? There are 2 vacancies for the Furness Seamen's Pension Fund. I've received no nominations for them. Are there any from the floor this evening? Councillor Young.
Nominate Councillor Tiplady.
So we'll continue with Councillor Tiplady and 1 vacancy. And if we move over to the final page, page 6. Oh, sorry. No, that's the minute, isn't it? So I'll move over to the final page, the Teesside Environment Trust. I've had a nomination from Councillor Creevy.
I'll happily withdraw.
Councillor Creevy takes that seat. Is that everything? I think, Mr Mayor, that concludes this evening. I don't know if you want to read the final statement out.
To resolve to adjourn the annual meeting to the 26th of May 2022 to receive suitable presentations from the newly elected Chair of Council. Ceremony Mayor. That concludes the meeting, tonight's meeting.